Three, two, one. Let's go! The last show of Tuesday, day 2, URTeC 2019.
Dude.
This is the last show tonight. Of course, Skips, the co-host, is here and live.
I'm still here.
Skips, what do you got, man? What do you got
I'm
for
here.
the opening of the show?
Dude, I'm super pumped about this show because, first and foremost, we're going to talk about innovations on the front line for geoscientists, right? This is new science that's coming in, and we're learning about it every day, understanding the geochemistry of these unconventional shales and actually how it's affecting production, right? And tracking that mysterious sweet spot
There
in
we
loose
go.
quos.
Everybody's talking about this sweet spot, Isaac. So we have Isaac Newton. I almost said we have Isaac Easow.
It's not Newton.
Well, you're the modern day. You are the modern day.
He is.
Thank you.
He is
Scientist.
a legend.
I'm humbled.
Yes.
He is a legend.
I mean, sir, it's because of your career. It's what you went through, which we'll get into right now. But Isaac Easow, as far as everybody that I've talked to in all of this thing, Isaac, your ideas, your hypotheses, right, in your ability to cut the elemental data that we get from the cuttings and make sure that they're actually on depth and we're looking at the rock that we would need to talk about. And then also everything that comes on the backside of that with the tools you did. Absolutely fascinating, absolutely world-renowned, and it's the future. If you're not doing this, in my opinion, and who cares about my opinion, but if you are not doing
It's a good opinion.
high-level geochemistry at the bit, if you're not doing that and getting that interpretation as fast as you can before putting perfs in the ground, then you're limiting yourself. Stop limiting yourself. Use the rock. Don't use second derivative data. Why are we using petrophysics and geophysics as the truth when we have the rock?
Right on.
Well, we can't use petrophysics or geophysics and interpret them as the truth without the rock.
Without
This is
calibrating.
without the foundation of getting that rock
That's
data,
right.
understanding
It's all
what
about
the,
physical evidence.
Yes,
That's what I
Empirical.
believe in, yeah.
Empirical data.
The first data set is physical data, right?
Oh yeah.
That's right, man. It's the rock, and that's
The rock.
where you live. That's where you lived for a long time in your career. So let's just go a high-level Isaac Easow career.
Okay. Well,
Get in there. Make love to that microphone, Isaac.
oh my. Okay. Well,
Says, oh my.
let's say.
You're
where
going
did I
to
start?
first base.
Yeah, I started back in India, University of Mumbai, geology degree, master's in
Let's
geology,
go.
and then, joined the oil industry when I was very young and went straight to the rig site. So I did the rig drilling, mud logging, pore pressure evaluation, geochemistry, and all that at the well site.
These are
Yeah.
super majors in India, offshore.
It started in India, but then I went to Southeast Asia, the Far East, Africa, Middle East, many places, even in Brazil. So traveled the world pretty much, hopping from rig to rig.
There's a quote that's from the first show that we've had, and I think it holds true to what you're saying, is he who sees the most rock wins.
Absolutely, yes.
And being in every single, well, not every single basin, but just about every continent where oil and gas is being explored and exploited, that is a huge advantage.
It's incredible.
That is way more
Absolutely,
rock
yeah.
than I hope to see that much rock in my
Right.
career. I'm
We
still
will.
fingers crossed.
We will.
It's very exciting, yeah, because when you travel the world and see all the different scenarios, the complications, the challenges, and then you get the rock from the ground, and you see it under the microscope, and then you do new cool technologies, that you can see much more details. So I've seen the history and the cycle of, where you can start from scratch and go to the high-end technology as of today.
So you really progressed with this idea of capturing gases to mass spec to everything we can possibly do at the drill bit, and its ability to come back up to the surface and start analyzing this stuff right away.
Right. Physical evidence is one thing, and how do you get it? What's the quality of data that you get? That's very important, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if your quality is not good, or what you acquire, then how do you go to the next step for interpretation?
Exactly.
So ultimately, it's all about production, right? What can you do? It's all about production anyway.
Oh, yeah.
All that we do before that, how can we reach that, right? So
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you want to end your high-level professional development into who Isaac Easow is today? How do you want to end that? Because we need to get down to the drill-down segment of this show, which is actually looking at data geochemically. For the first time in the PBE podcast booth, we are going to look at images of the elemental data, the periodic table that everybody learned in high school. We're going to look at the elemental data that makes up the rock that geologists will say, oh, that's a limestone. But when you look at the elemental data, there's like 80 different elements in it that make up a limestone. You're like, well, that's kind of freaking weird. All these metals and shit inside these limes. That's kind of weird. So you've done this. You've been doing this. How many horizontal wells have you geochemically analyzed?
Yeah, plenty. I've lost
How many?
count.
Hundreds?
I've lost count.
Hundreds, thousands.
Different basins.
You can use your fingers and your toes.
Yeah.
I'll
Fingers
give you
into
that.
thousands? How many? I mean, tens of basins worldwide. You've been now analyzing the rock at the elemental level, which means what it's actually made out of.
Yeah.
You've been doing that and cutting in all different ways.
I see elements in my dreams now.
Hey, we should create a new element called Isaac Easow. It's going to be like
Yes.
number 297 or whatever it is. And anyway, I'm sorry, it's sidetracked. Okay, so how do you want to end your career? How did you get to this point? What was it, man? Your biggest significant event through your career that got you here?
Well, right from when I was young, when I was on the rigs, I had a curiosity to evaluate.
Yeah.
So data evaluation, formation evaluation was just in my blood. So I kept doing that right from when I was a mud logger. And over the years, specialized in mud gas, geochemistry, the rock itself, the pore fluids, what's there in the fluids,
Right.
what is
Direct
the formation
measurements.
fluids, what's the pore pressure, various aspects of what's in the rock, right? So how does it get there? What does it mean to evaluate what is in there? What does it mean to production? What does it mean to the commercial aspects of the whole project?
Sure.
So it got me thinking very, very early in my career. So
How did you get to geolog? When did that happen?
I was in the oil industry, obviously I've been in here for 29 years.
Yeah.
So this is my 29th year.
If you can't
obviously.
tell,
Yeah.
he looks like he's 35, but he's actually like 6. How old are
I
you?
can take that compliment.
How old? Yeah, it doesn't matter.
75. No, I'm kidding.
I'm trying to look like you look now at
Yeah.
like 29.
It's genetics,
that's a
man.
win for me.
It's genetics.
So anyway, over the years I worked in different companies and worked with various major oil companies, majors
Yeah.
worldwide. So working with geochemists, geologists, reservoir engineers,
Yeah.
all kinds of
Okay.
engineering people. So
Well,
it helped me to learn.
That's important.
Right?
I mean, at the end of the day, right, as a geoscientist, crossing that bridge into the engineering world, most people are afraid to do.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
That's just too foreign. It's not something I'm comfortable with. Being
Yeah.
able to see both sides of that fence is huge.
That's incredible, actually.
Absolutely, yes. So, working as, a service provider, you got to be focused on quality control because you need to win the trust of the operators, right?
Sure.
So people are looking at the data, the petrophysicists. So if you give them quality data, then you can, recognize what you can do with it, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And that's exactly where this show needs to go. P-Dog, can you run the mouse real quick? Let's pull up his presentation. And Isaac, you know something that's going on at the geochemical level that most people, I would argue, do not. So
Absolutely.
Isaac, I want to hear it, man. When we look at these slides and all the data that we collect when it comes to mud logging and all the cuttings and the pore pressure and all this data that's coming up from the reservoir from actually drilling and eating it up with the drill bit for the first time after 250 million years of lithification, right? The Permian, for example. That rock's been sitting there for 250 million years. And that drill bit is now breaking that rock, and you're introducing two things, a fluid, and you're also depressurizing the system. And when we start breaking that rock with these horizontal wells, you have been on the front lines of collecting that data, evaluating it elementally at very high-end gases. You're looking at things up to C22,
27, actually.
C37
27,
gases.
yeah.
You're looking at
whatever
all-
aim that is.
Yeah.
But
You're looking at this very dynamic system. And I know you know something, and I want you to tell us what you know.
Well, you could be drilling a well which is, dry gas, right?
Sure.
A dry gas well pretty much is 99% methane. Some of them probably
Boring.
they have CO2 or, other gases, but maybe helium. But you could be also drilling an oil well, black oil,
Right.
and very low API oil gravity. So
Yeah.
you may not even
when you
see
say
some
very
methane.
low, are you talking in the teens when you say very low API? Are you talking like California 12?
You're talking
It
about
could be
that
very
California
low, yeah.
sweet tar out the wall.
No, let's not talk about that. Let's narrow this down a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's go Permian Basin.
Permian Basin, yes. So you are looking at, upper 30s, 40s, maybe
Right.
even 50s,
Right.
right?
This stuff
Oh, yeah.
moves.
You have
man.
you have a good
Sweet,
range,
sweet
sweet
oil.
oil, yeah. So there are differences in the type of reservoir fluids all
Right.
across the Permian Basin.
Major differences, even in
And
its own reservoir.
Within the reservoir, within a lateral well,
Within the 7,500 foot lateral,
Exactly,
you're
yeah.
looking at API gravity changing.
there could be changes. Yes,
Huh? Did anybody hear that? Huh?
you'd be surprised.
The gravity
yes.
of the oil is
They
changing.
Could, yes, charges
Along the lateral.
There could be charges, different charges. There could be
It's a migration story.
compartmentalization, yes.
Oh, it's a
There is
migration,
migration
story.
there,
That's,
right?
hey, I like it. It's a mechanism to use.
Yeah.
It's a fair mechanism.
Yeah.
It's logical. It's a migration story. But
This-
you're talking about something that has no permeability and almost no porosity. So the migration story is kind of hard to believe. I'll give you as much time as you want. It just is about as impermeable as this table. Right? I mean, you got to
Absolutely,
migrate.
yeah.
You got some migration problems with that mechanism, but it's certainly a mechanism. Beyond that point, though, and that argument is this image that we're looking at. When we collect all this data and how Isaac has been putting all this data together, and you're looking at this, what is it? Why are you cross-plotting those things that you're cross-plotting? Why are you looking at the data the way that you are?
Because, number one, there are subtle differences.
Very.
Right? If you look at the whole Permian system, the several Bone Springs, Wolfcamp, the rock properties do change, but the fluid properties, there are subtle differences. And you need to identify what are those small differences that you can see.
Yeah.
Sometimes the differences are very narrow, so you got to really zoom in on specific ratios for a specific area, which can point to the gas-oil ratio, condensate gas ratio, whatever you're looking at. And then there are specific elements that are specific to different layers, right?
Yeah.
Chemostratigraphy, that's very
right.
important too.
Yeah.
So you have the rock, you have the mineralogy in the rock, the elements in the rock, the fluid properties.
Yes.
The fluid properties do not change a whole lot in a specific area. So you need to zoom in and differentiate
Yep.
and use as many data sets that you can get to
Exactly.
identify those differences and how does each of those differences affect your completions,
Exactly right.
starting with completions and finally with production, right? What is the production rate?
Right.
Is there water? How much water
Of course
do you
there is.
expect to produce?
A lot.
Is
a
it
lot.
residual oil or is it, non-residual? Is it fresh oil,
Yeah.
non-depleted? There are many things that you can identify by looking at the mud gas and then the reservoir rock properties.
And so that's what you're doing. You're seeing, and like in this example on the screen, so let's just look at this. You have a helium curve.
Yeah, you have the track right at the bottom. You have, for example,
Where are we at?
yeah, where is the mouse
There it
at?
is, there
Oh,
it is.
there it is. Okay.
There it is. We found it. Oh,
All right. So that track there is actually telling you what is the hydrocarbon quantity in
Yes.
that part of the lateral, right? So this is a long lateral. Let's say maybe a 10,000 foot lateral.
Okay.
So you're looking at the hydrocarbon totals versus the rate of drilling.
Yep.
So
And
if the volume of rock that is coming while drilling and the total hydrocarbon quantity, if they are together like this point, that means there is limited hydrocarbon potential in that rock. Perhaps it is tight, or it's talking about porosity, right?
Okay.
So now you're looking at porosity.
so this could be potentially more or less validation, right? If we were to do some sort of seismic inversion, right? And we
Ah.
understood our Poisson's ratio.
Okay.
Tying it back in earlier today.
Okay.
all of a sudden we're drilling laterally, right? And all of a sudden we go from an area of high poissons to low poissons or vice versa. Now we can actually see potential deliverability within that reservoir to validate that initial model.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It talks about storage.
Now,
right?
So you're looking at probably about 750 to 1,000 feet of rock in that first big kick, which also has a big kick in helium. So that, let's call it 1,000 feet. I think geophysically you can see 1,000 foot difference for sure. So just looking at this curve, this image right up front, you have three distinct things happening. This helium curve is growing in the beginning, and then it does something almost to the like 2/3 away, and then at the toe, the helium is right. You have helium, and you have obviously gas shows with that helium too. But now you take it even further, and you start dicing up elemental data. What are those other? What are these?
So you have, let's say here, you have the helium. Of course, helium is a good indicator for faults, and sometimes for fractures too, right?
Yeah.
So if you see a certain change in the rock properties and the gas behavior, you can also look at the helium to see, did you cut across a fault? That's very important to know as well.
So did you cross 3 faults in this well?
I would say maybe at least a couple of them.
And you would also then say that you would think that the faults are bringing in hydrocarbon into the system, because that's what it looks like's happening. It looks like you're getting good kick with your natural fractures or faulting.
On the flip side, your faults could also bring in water. So there's a lot of water production, for example.
So you might have initial
right?
hydrocarbon. You might have initial hydrocarbon there, but it's packed with water.
There could be a lot of water along with it too. So that would be a production problem too. Yeah.
So what would you do in this well? Where are you completing this horizontal well? Let's put stages. Let's give you 10 stages wherever you want, and every dollar that comes out of this well you complete, you get in your personal bank account. Where is Isaac Easow and why?
Do you know where I can get one of those deals, dog?
Where and why, at the PBE podcast, where and why are you completing this well?
See, there's another thing which we didn't look at it, because we have to look at the rock.
That's right.
That's X-ray diffraction, X-ray fluorescence, elements, mineralogy.
Rock eval paralysis.
So I think, the ideal thing, TOC is important too, right? So you got to look at the like rocks. So you look at the like rocks, then look at the like hydrocarbon fluid properties. Let's say there's a good hydrocarbon storage in that particular rock.
Okay.
And then look at the lean sections. Then you look at the rock properties.
Yep.
So if you're able to put like rocks, like hydrocarbon properties, and then isolate the potential fault zones, okay?
Yep.
So that you don't want to pull in water during production. So that's the end goal as well.
Yep.
To isolate those potential problem areas, right?
Okay.
So when you're able to do those adjustments and engineer your completions, perhaps you have a better result than potentially drilling your well just with a gamma ray log, right?
Not perhaps, Isaac. I read right through you.
Yes.
Not perhaps.
It is.
You are absolutely onto something. And you've seen it, and I know you've seen it. You're onto something. If you put stimulations in the proper rock, then you're going to get better recovery.
Better yield, yeah.
If you put stimulations every 120 feet and you treat it the exact same way, you are not doing your job.
I think that is suicidal.
That's suicidal. It's Ladies and gentlemen, Isaac Easow in the Icon booth has said, if you are completing wells and you're just completing every single stage as much as you possibly can down your horizontal wellbore, it is considered suicidal.
Absolutely.
That is suicidal in our industry today.
Do you want to produce a lot of water or oil?
Exactly right. It's about engineering our way to this rock. We have to unlock this rock correctly.
Absolutely.
It's not layer cake geology. It's not simple engineering.
It's not, hey, 100-foot cluster spacing.
Right.
Slick water, 100 mesh. Let's blow this thing to the moon and we're going to get everything back.
Stop it.
We understand that doesn't
rock.
work. We understand it doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
I mean, we could see it in these carpet and these tank methods, right? We're just blowing all this up, expecting to pull every drop out of this reservoir, and we're getting less than 5%.
What we believe is that everything is just mixing up and it's going to blow everything up and we're going to get all the oil from the ground anyway.
Wrong.
So
We're
how
gonna-
does it matter?
We're going to get all
But
the
it does
good
matter,
stuff.
right?
That's right.
At
It's
the
wrong.
end.
It's wrong. That idea of blowing everything up and bringing it all back is wrong. We're saying
Absolutely.
it tonight, 2019 URTeC, that methodology is wrong.
So you got one good thing is that when you drill a well, you got cuttings coming back from the well anytime.
That's
all
right.
the time, okay? So that's
5 minutes, guys.
Okay.
so those cuttings are just coming out. You don't need to do anything different, right? You're not sending a tool down hole. You're getting the reservoir fluid coming with the drilling fluid. So you got two extremely important, physical evidences coming out from the well. So what are you doing with that? If that can save you X amount of millions of dollars of drilling a bad well, or completing a bad well,
Yeah.
that could change the game, don't you think?
Absolutely.
100%. I mean, we talked about this before. The amount of cuttings that are just dumped into the pits that are lost, that data is forever gone, right?
Valuable
And
data.
all of a sudden now, when we're trying to interpret at a higher level, right, we're trying to calibrate our logs. We're
Yeah.
trying to do this, this awesome stuff with the
Right.
seismic, right? If we don't have that rock data, that foundation to ground us and really base our interpretations off of, then
Yeah, dude. You know what? That's a perfect segue, Skippo. You killed it, dude. Skip's just killed the segue. The completion part of this show is that you have gone through a career and a hell of a career, and you know so much and you have such good ideas. But you know what? We have been left. And when I say we, it's the young professionals, the people who are trying to build what we think is going to be a great career to bring food to our tables for our families and to live a good life. When we have this responsibility and you have endless amount of people who are discarding the cuttings completely and they're not doing advanced geochemistry on the cuttings, at the end of the day, what are we doing to ourselves? What are we doing to ourselves, Isaac?
Suicide.
I don't want to hear that.
No, you don't want to
It's
hear
not-
that.
It's
Yeah.
not suicide yet. We have hope.
We have hope.
It's
yes,
a
of
very
course.
sad CFO.
It's a
very,
sad
very
CFO.
sad CFO.
Yes, it's-
We can save. We can save those wells. The future wells that are coming up can be saved, right? We can get the best output from those
That's
wells,
right.
best production.
that's right.
Yeah.
So use what you already have. You don't have to do anything new.
No.
Grab that data that you can get
God,
and apply it while you can still do that before you complete the well.
that's right. And
That's the mantra.
that's it. I'm a 100% advocate of that. The rock data that's coming back from our drill bits, that we have storage units of, sea crates of rock data, of cuttings that have never been XRF, XRD, clay speciation, rock eval paralysis, all the things that you guys do and that we need to be doing to this rock. That's there, it's available, it just needs to be done. Everyone that's drilling new wells needs to save this. It's because it's for us. It's
Yeah.
our future. It's our future. We're doing this together.
The future generation, young guys like you guys.
Otherwise, we're all going to fail.
Yep.
I'd like to do this for a while, man. I
Yeah,
don't know
dude.
about you. This is a lot of fun.
I would
This is a lot
love to
of
do this
fun.
for a career. I would love to be talking to a future podcaster about what we learned about all this stuff, right?
Absolutely.
And you just did it, Isaac.
Thank you very much. Thank you for
Isaac,
having me.
It's an honor.
Thank you, Skips. Thank
All
you
right,
both.
day two. We're out.
We out.